Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Elisa here with Thoughtful Creativity, and thank you so much for tuning in this week because today I would love to invite you for a bit of a sewing freestyle. Now last week we did a unique to me and a very summery project, so we were making shoes. But just about this time of the year, kind of like mid-August, I usually start prepping for fall, and I do need a couple of pieces for my fall wardrobe. And I have this cotton voile that I got from Mood about 3 years ago, and you know that I'm on a mission to use up as much of my fabric stash as I can, so I thought this would be perfect. This fabric gives me all of the fall feelings, the colors, the flowers. Now, the print itself does look a little bit like old wallpaper, like I totally get it, but I think that with the right garment in mind, I can turn it around and it can become a beautiful romantic blouse. That's what I think. So let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna start off with the base. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and take my woven bodice block with dart, and we'll go from there. I am mainly thinking about leaving it as is with minimal adjustments, but I do want to create some sort of interesting detail for the shoulder, so I'm thinking a little shoulder yoke, and that could work really well because then I can open the bust dart into it and create little gathers. And for the shoulder yoke, I will do one where it's a piece of the front and a piece of the back, and you combine them together, so it goes from one side over to the other side. So here how it looks up close. This part will go to the front and this part will go to the back. And now we're gonna pivot that bust dart into that shoulder seam to create those beautiful gathers. For the neckline, I am not sure about it just yet, so I think I'm just gonna leave it as is, as my woven bodice block has it, you know, all the way up to the neck. I might take a little bit of inspiration from this blouse right over here where I did a keyhole closure and a little tie, but because I do have 2 yards of this fabric and I don't necessarily see myself using it for anything else, I might do like a bow tie or like a really long tie and a thick one that would like fold over or something like that. This is kind of like the vision that I'm having, so I'm gonna put it in the back of my mind and we'll get back to it. Sleeves. For the sleeves, I'm thinking, you know, I do have that little gather detail here at the shoulders, the one that goes into the little shoulder yoke. So I'm thinking, let's just go ahead and play on that idea of gathers and add some volume to the sleeve because, again, I do have 2 yards of this fabric, so I might as well just use it for something really nice that speaks to me, right? So I'm thinking a bishop sleeve that will have some volume here at the wrist, but also let's just go ahead and add some volume here at the top of the sleeve as well. Just a little bit, not like a ton, but just a little bit. Alright, so I have the sleeve done, the front and the back, the little yoke detail, and oh, wait a second, I have to do the hem. So for the hem, I'm thinking a slightly curved hem for the front and the back, just to give it that shirt feeling, and that's about it. And I'm gonna freestyle the neckline, and now it's time to grab the scissors. You know, is that one thing about cutting floral fabric and working with floral fabric all together, especially the one like this one, where it doesn't have the floral print all over, but it has like empty spots in the middle, and trying to not to end up with flowers on some interesting positions on your body that would make it look a little bit awkward. So definitely keep that in mind when you're cutting a fabric like that. As always, I don't add seam allowances to my pattern drafts, therefore when I cut the fabric, I need to add seam allowances to it. Now, while I'm cutting these pieces, here's a little bit of a side note, maybe a bit of a food for thought. And as I mentioned, I am currently on the quest, and I've been on that quest for a few years now, to use as much of my fabric stash as possible and to really put it into the project. And I feel so much better now that my fabric stash has gone in size, probably about 75% down. And I don't know what it is about it, but to me, it definitely has that very heavy feeling when I know that there's just a ton of material that's sitting on the shelf and is not being used. I also realize that, especially in current situation right now, it's a lot of money just sitting on a shelf. And although my fabric stash wasn't necessarily super huge to begin with, still I had quite a bit of fabric. So I know that for me, it's a heavy feeling. I know for some of you, you sincerely like to have fabric and fabric stash and sort of like collections of fabric. So I realize it's a very personal thing, which is totally fine. You do you, whatever makes you happy. But for those of you who might be experiencing the same frustration and maybe overwhelmed with that, I do encourage you to use up your fabric stash, dig up those treasured fabrics that you have, because at the end of the day, you can't take them with you, right? So might as well put them into beautiful garments that are handmade with love and that you will wear with joy. So I definitely feel sort of like at peace with the amount of fabric that I have right now. I'm still working on it, but I'm feeling a lot better. All right, drum roll, because now it's time to sort of put it all together. And it might seem at the first glance that there are a lot of moving parts, but in reality, it's just the top with 2 sleeves and a little shoulder detail over here. Everything else is exactly the same as you would sew for any other top, so it's really straightforward. For the necktie piece, you know what? I do have an early access video for members currently, so if you are a member of the channel, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And you do have members extra for this blouse, a deep dive, and also an early access video for the tutorial for the bow tie. So check out your perks, make the most out of them. The assembly itself starts with a shoulder yoke, and that's what I'm going to do first. And after that, it's a smooth sailing. Just like I mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. Now, if you remember, I didn't really make up my mind about the neckline. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the keyhole opening. I'm gonna finish that with a bias tape, and then I'm going to insert the ties that was going to go around my neck. And after that, we will have the hem. And of course, the sleeves. The sleeves are gonna have elastic on the cuff, so that way it kind of brings it in really nicely and finishes it all in one go. And as a side note, if you do sew and you want to make your own blouse like that, tutorials for all of the details will be in the info box below right underneath this video. Now you tell me if it looks like an old wallpaper. I actually happen to like this sort of old-timey feel to it. I don't own many garments like that, but it's nice to have a variety. So I'm really pleased with it. Now let me show you a few details up close so that way you can see them a little bit better. Now here's a funny story. When I completed this blouse, I put it on myself, I was so very happy. So I go and I show this to my husband, and you know what he says? He looks at me and he's like, Why do you look like a flower pirate? So on this funny and somewhat positive note, definitely check out this video right over here about my first attempt at making shoes. I also did paint my own fabric, so definitely click right over here. And until next time, happy freestyle sewing, and I'll see you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and I'll see you soon. Bye!